Welcome back to Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Last time, we accidentally ended up rescuing the Apostle of Benyon, so that's gonna help put Alincia in her good graces. This time, we enter Benyon proper and start a story arc that'll last for quite a few chapters, and marks the real transition point from the first half of the game to the second half. I consider this the last real story arc of Part 1 of the game. So, back on the map again. The Benyon Empire, the largest nation on the continent, is a theocracy dedicated to the goddess Ashura. Reigning from the summit of the empire, and guiding the world with the voice of the goddess, the Apostle Sanaki rules Benyon. As Ashura's chosen vessel, the Apostle is showered with love and respect from the entire nation. 7 Imperial Senators aid the Apostle in the governance of her realm and totally aren't evil at all. This system of government has been the backbone of Benyon for many long centuries. After Ike and his company aid the Apostle, her holy guard takes them to the Imperial capital, Cien. The upper class of Benyon society live lives of pampered comfort and luxury. Known as the Sainted, these elite power brokers reside in massive temple-like homes whose spires dominate the skyline. The Guiding Tower overlooks all from the heart of the city. Here, Ashura holds her vigil, watching over the world. It is also called the Tower of Guidance in Radiant Dawn because consistency issues. Surrounding the tower is a series of temples, both large and small, placed in an orderly, systematic fashion. One temple, however, is conspicuously larger than the others. It is the Grand Temple Mainol, home to the Apostle. Sorry, I'm actually kind of not sure how to pronounce that. Ike and his company, used to the freedoms of Crimea, find the difference in culture and custom to be very confusing. Yeah, Benyon is a pretty confusing place to people who aren't familiar with it. It's a very old-fashioned nation, and there's a lot of divide between classes. Also, here we have this song. It's just called A Messenger, but it's effectively Sanaki's theme. Just noticed that kind of tapestry in the background. Is that a Falcon Knight unicorn thing, or is that a dragon? Kind of looks like a dragon. So yeah, Alincia probably should have brought some kind of proof that she was the princess. Yeah, thankfully Celica didn't have that issue, though she had to go through quite a lot to find hers. I don't think character witnesses are what we need here. We need actual definitive proof. That's a very good point, though. Oh, come on, really? How is that important here? No surname's kind of interesting, so maybe the reason that Jill is one of the few people who has one is because she's from a noble family. Well, so Benyon just seems to be the land of snobs. As you could probably tell. This line's actually pretty funny if you know the development history of this game, because in the very first draft of the story, Ike actually was. In fact, his house was deeply tied to Sephiroth's in that version. He, Grail, and Titania, I think, were all part of that noble house, and it was actually part of Benyon originally, or at least somewhere called Babylonia. Anyway, like, that draft got scrapped pretty quickly. In this version, Ike has absolutely no nobility at all. Well, he might as well be. I mean, Elinci has hired him to protect her. Doesn't that count? We will not sell our souls to a liar. That's actually a very good line. I love that. And we have someone cutting in with a name and an actual portrait. He's not going to be important later at all. We knew via dramatic irony that Sephiroth was the Prime Minister of Benyon, but Ike doesn't know that yet. Yeah, he was obviously more important than he seemed. Wrong! Yeah, so, Sanaki, you should learn how to pronounce your noble house names. Duke Blessius is a mistranslation. It's supposed to be Duke Persis. I don't know where they got Blessies out of that, but yeah, Sephiroth's title is mistranslated a lot in this game. Radiant Dawn keeps it more consistently as Duke Persis. So, yeah, Nasir was right about Benyon having spies everywhere. We just happened to run into one of them. So she was just trolling us with all that. And no doubt many of you know who this guy is. Yeah, we'll be dealing with him, pretty soon. I still have the, like, every line he says. I love his hero's voice. I think Richard Epcar did a really good job, and I now hear all of his dialogue in that voice. Yes, planning to have someone executed. Not a bad way to amuse yourselves. That's just how Benyon operates, pretty much. So, all of that was entirely pointless. I was mostly silent there because I really like that scene. It's just a really interesting moment for Ike, and it's something that's, again, it's not really conveyed all that well in many of Ike's spin-off appearances, but just... I just think it's really interesting just how furious Ike gets there, and it just shows just how much he cares about what matters to him, and just how much he absolutely will not let anyone get away with any kind of bullcrap like that. But on the other hand, the Apostle also has a point. Elincia really needs Benyon, and yelling at the leader of a country that you're pretty much dependent on at this point is a really, really dumb idea. So yeah, I could have easily been killed. They could have easily decided to not help Elincia, and then Crimea would have been doomed. So, on the one hand, Ike was good to actually call the senators and Sanaki out there, but on the other hand, it very nearly backfired horribly, and he probably should have shown a little bit of restraint there. It's just kind of interesting how it was both a good and a bad thing at the same time. It just shows how Ike's sort of... yeah, how Ike's passion can get the best of him sometimes. Also, this is also a great line. There's so many lines from this game that I love. Also, that line actually takes on pretty significant meaning if you've played the sequel game, but anyway. So yeah, more class stuff. It's not nearly as heavy-handed as it is, like in terms of the themes, as it is in Echoes. And that's, obviously a bit more significant in Japanese. Yeah, dropping honorifics around someone is a sign that, yeah, you're very familiar with them and that you're very good friends. Also, accidentally dropping honorifics around someone is definitely a sign that you're warming up to them. And back to this. Overall, I really like that scene. It's a decent amount of combat experience, but no bonus experience at all. Leth got the MVP, interestingly enough. And we spent that much gold because I must have opened 3 chests with Volk. But yeah, there's a lot of people who say that Ike's personality was modeled a lot on Hector from the 7th game. In some ways, I agree, but I really don't think Ike is like Hector and others. Like, Hector is pretty much headstrong and brash. I just realized I didn't even use any of Marsha's chess keys. Hector's pretty much really strong and brash all the time, whereas... oh, yeah, still in here. Whereas Ike only gets that way when something really makes him mad. Like, he only gets angry for really good reason. Okay, that longsword, how much weight does that have? 15! Yeesh, and that's only 12 might with, effectiveness bonus, which is barely better than a lot of these things. I think Mist is fine for healing staves. Okay, the Night Ward. Definitely want to give this to someone else, and I think I may give this to... I know this is kind of a waste. Like, optimally speaking, this is much better on a Paladin or on Nephany, but I think it's kind of fun for Gatry to have an increased speed growth, even though he almost never ends up doubling anything except other armored classes. Now, I'm going to go ahead and see if I'm running low on javelins. Does anyone have any javelins that I can take? Might as well take Oscars. In fact, might as well, yeah, you can use the Killer Lance, that's good. Sauron is pretty much fine, but I think I'll equip the Mage Band on you again. Even though your next level up, it doesn't actually matter what band you have equipped, because it will be a promotion. And, I'm still... that speed is really not that good for Ike, so I'm worried there. I really can't do much for Nephany's weapons at the moment. Titania, I think, is totally fine with axes, although... I don't want to use the short axe just yet. Kieran must still have the halberd, doesn't he? Where's Kieran? There we go. Oh, the pole axe, whatever. It's called the halberd in some games. Might take that, because there are going to be cavalry in this map. Okay, I'm not able to use that. That actually is not a bad idea for Titania to have in this chapter. You'll see why once we get there. 16 weight is quite a bit, but might as well swap out the iron axe for that. We do have an energy drop. I would probably give that to Nephany normally, but I want to save that for transfer bonuses. I think Gatry is okay, but he could probably stand to take one of the bands. Who has a band that I'm not really using? You know what? Gatry's strength's been lagging behind a little bit. Oh, wait, I'm stupid. Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, I gotta give Gatry a band, and then I realized, oh, yeah, the Night Ward is technically a band, so doesn't really need anything. Don't need Elfire yet. Probably should conquer that longsword. Yeah, I have so many stat boosters building up, but I don't really care at this point. I think for now, that's fine. Anyway, like, I can't really go into all of these similarities between, like, and differences between Ike and Hector at this point. I think they're a lot more different than many people think. I feel like Hector was more based on Lex from FE4, and then Ike is... He has some elements of Hector, but he's pretty much his own thing. It's like there are generally two categories of male lords, I find. There's the Marth-type lords, who are much more refined and more noble, pretty much classical princes. You know, like Eliwood, and then there's the Hector type of lords, who are much more brash and headstrong and more prone to fighting. And Ike takes elements of that, but he's also kind of his own thing. And then Crom is roughly 50% either way. Actually, still not really sure what Alm falls into now that I think about it, because his character is very different between the original and the remake, but anyway, I could easily talk about Lords in a different episode. Titania and Ike can reach a B. Okay, actually, this one is important. I do want to do this one. But that'll mean that I can't do any more support with Ike for the playthrough, because he has to get an A with Soren, so... I am doing this because this reveals some very significant backstory on Titania. Yeah, she promised to reveal this. This, I believe, is quite a long support. Okay, so that makes sense. That's how the two of them must have met. So, yeah, that actually ended pretty abruptly, but that gives quite a lot of backstory there. You won't be seeing the A in this playthrough, unfortunately, because stupid support limits, but the last piece of the puzzle, which I already explained earlier, is that Titania was in love with Grail, so yeah, which you can probably figure out already. What kind of Mist? Okay, Mist and Jill have a support. I definitely want to do this one. Jill's supports in general are pretty great. So it doesn't start out all that significant, but it gets a lot better later. So now info conversations. We've got one that's thinly veiled gameplay hints for the next chapter, so I might leave it for last, and we have these three. Hey, Gatry's back. I actually feel like Gatry does not get a lot of base conversations in this game. I think this might be the only one he gets from now until the very end. Yeah, also the background here is the exact same as Gallia Castle, so they probably should have done a different background for this. Oh, right, I remember this conversation now. You know, they've probably taken vows of chastity, Gatry. That's pretty good. And now Astrid. Ah, yes, the rebellious princess trope. Kind of. Her character's very different to the typical type of rebellious princess. She's a lot more, she's a lot sort of quieter and much less tomboyish, but still. And she definitely becomes stronger if you train her. She gets really, really good. Some people feel like Astrid is a little bit of an underutilized character because she actually has some pretty interesting connections to backstory and Benyon, but it's not gone into all that much. Yeah, you used to be here. It's kind of like quitting your job and then having to come back to your workplace. Well, it's a good thing that she joined us, but, yeah. Not everyone has the luxury of having good siblings. I mean, in real life, I'm pretty lucky that I get on so well with my sister. I've known families who just have siblings that just have hated each other their whole lives. Anyway. Foggy banks of a river. Oh no. Well, that's interesting. The one weakness of Lagoo is completely eliminated. So, Benyon is basically, if you thought Crimea was racist, Benyon is on a whole other level entirely. This is pretty much, your first introduction to that. I'm kind of curious what this dialogue looked like in Japanese, because, they definitely had fun with her dialect here. Can already kind of picture how she'd sound. So anyway, there's that, and we don't have much bonus experience at all. Which is unfortunate, because I'd kind of like to... I mean, I could use a Master Seal on Soren right now, but... Like I said, I basically have to save those for Oscar and Boyd if I want to show one of the later base conversations. I don't need to do that. I think for the moment I'm actually fine. We'll be getting more bonus experience soon. In fact, after Chapter 15, we'll be getting a whole ton of bonus experience. And actually, I might need to make sure that Jill gets a lot of kills in this next map. Like, she actually needs to get a lot of kills. While we're here, though, we did pick up that occult scroll earlier. So only promoted characters can use occult scrolls. Actually, Lagoos can as well, because they effectively count as promoted. So for Titania, the occult skill of Paladins is Soul, which pretty much works the exact same way it does in other games in the series. It's also one of the few of these skills that's actually decent. And I'll need to remove Counter to learn it, but that really doesn't matter. I'll hold off on using the occult scroll for now. I plan on doing an entire video where I show off all of the occult skills and explain, like, which ones are worth using, which, in my opinion, is not many. But yeah, for cats and tigers, it's Roar. This is actually not an offensive skill, it's a command that you use when you're next to an enemy that stuns an enemy for one turn. It's really, really not that great. There are actually worse skills than that, but it's really not that great. So, there's really not much else for me to do in here. Let's leave the base. Because at the moment we have absolutely no indication of what we're actually doing in this chapter. I love how just flat Ike is there. It's just like, there's nothing to do, and Mister's bored. Yeah, that doesn't mean you should be saying it in front of one of your, like, the highest ranking people who you're the guest for. We finally have a job to do. And suddenly cut to the fog. I kind of like how they build this up. They completely cut out the explanation of the task, and leave it a bit of a mystery as to what you're actually doing until the chapter begins. Yeah, I mean, we are mercenaries, we might as well take on a few jobs while we're free, plus, it'll earn some more favor with the Apostle. Like what Ike's saying. Interesting. And you might be able to see that, yep, it's another fog chapter. Obviously on normal or easy, there's no fog. So who are these merchants that we're stopping? Well, it's more like merchants with giant air quotes around them. So it's time to fight whoever these people are, although I'm sure it should be pretty obvious what they're up to. I'm going to be a little bit mysterious for now, because you're supposed to piece all of this together over the course of several chapters as to what's actually going on here. There was also a lot of significant exposition that I had to be quiet for there. Oh, okay, quickly, one quick thing before the chapter begins. I need to maybe buy a few more hand axes because the shop's selling them again. Can never have too many hand axes. I think I'm fine on those for now. Now, the shop is selling a very interesting item. The torch staff. This is the one and only time in the game where this is sold, and it's only sold on hard mode for obvious reasons. I'm gonna go ahead and buy one, even though it's a bit of a waste of gold. It is nice experience for your staff users. So let's, well, Mist actually can't take it, so I'll have to give that to her later. Guess I can drop that and take that torch staff. I just want to get this just to show off how it works. Also, if we go to the forge, we can forge steel weapons now. So that's definitely a big increase in firepower. Can't forge throwing weapons just yet, though. In fact, how much for a forged lance for Jill? That's a D. I might as well jack up the hit rate, considering how much trouble she's been having. You know what? This might not be a bad idea, mainly because we're going to be getting a lot more gold very soon. I think I'm actually just going to go for this. Okay, what to call this? No references this time, I just have to name it this. And it's gonna be red. Because seriously. Like I said, we'll be getting a lot more gold soon, so spending that much is not really gonna bother me.